Hello friends and welcome to this very important lecture for PSIR Current Affairs, wherein I want to make a strategy with you in order to be able to incorporate current affairs in the right manner to secure topmost marks in your PSIR optional for mains 2024. Now here there might be three kinds of students, right? The first can be those who've simultaneously been able to cover their current affairs and build a level of analysis, expertise as well as interlinkage but need revision. Then there can be another category of students who've done some sort of work, right? So coverage of current affairs has been possible because they had to do it for GS also, and some sort of interlinkage they were able to do with PSIR. But say greater analysis, scholarly interlinkages, deriving of keywords is still missing. And then there will be others who have not been able to look at current affairs from a PSIR perspective in any which way. Now, all these categories of students may end up writing mains 2024. So, how you end up coping with current affairs and incorporating them in your answers becomes of critical importance. And this is something that I will be teaching you. Plus, not just for them, but even students of 2025-26, right? From the very beginning, they should have a well-rounded strategy so that later on they aren't burdened or overwhelmed when they have to cover current affairs or incorporate these as examples in your PSIR optional when the exams are nearer. Therefore, the right move is to learn early and to incorporate this as a habit as you prepare for PSIR optional. Now, one of the greatest strengths of political science and international relations is the fact that there is a lot of overlap with GS, right? So, say in GS2, though, it is very obvious, right, that polity and IR both have intensive and extensive coverage with PSIR. Apart from this, even when you look at GS1, here again social issues happen to have an overlap with PSIR because we cover issues like caste movement, communalism and religion in India, gender movement. Then very importantly, when you look at even GS3, right, issues like security. Why? Because from the perspective of India and the world, when we look at India's foreign policy, one of the major reasons why we carry out foreign policy is to secure India's national interests. And one of the core national interests is securing India's national security. Right? Therefore, there will also be an overlap in this. Environment can also be an area of overlap. Why? Because environmental politics is a part of IGP or also as a part of global issues in paper 2 part A. Right? So, there is a lot of overlap here. And similarly, not just in syllabus, in current affairs also. So, what happens is that students end up having a base or a context which they can build on for PSIR optional to make it more optional relevant. And how do you make it more optional relevant is by adding a level of expertise or scholarly analysis, right? And this becomes possible how? This becomes possible when you're able to add, say, perspectives given in, say, editorials. So, there are various people who are writing editorials. Say, for example, in recent times, the issue of appointment of the pro tem speaker has been doing a lot of debate. So, there are a number of people who've talked about the role of the speaker, the role of pro tem speaker, and then obviously because of this the role of speaker also becomes important, right? So you can look at scholarly analysis which have been provided by people like Subhash Kashyap in the working of the parliament, Granville Austin. You can look at recent scholars like Valerian Rodriguez or people like E. Sridharan who've written articles on these issues prevailing in the parliament. Another thing that you can do is interlink it with the static part. Say, for example, in IGP, when we cover this issue, we don't limit ourselves to the articles with respect to speaker or what is the function which the speaker is supposed to perform. We will do an analysis of the role that he plays in the parliamentary democracy and how the role of the speaker can either end up contributing to the flourishing of democracy or its undermining. Right, so that sort of interlinkage which ends up also becoming very rich in keywords is something that you are supposed to ensure in your current affairs interlinkage for PSIR. Then very importantly, even if there is no direct correlation with the question, you should be able, through these interlinkages, incorporate these as examples in your answers. Now, how does one end up covering these current affairs in an enriching manner so that all of these requirements are also fulfilled? Again, I will show you this through an example. Now, say the national security strategy of India. Now, this can be a part of your GS3 also. But very importantly, this is also a part of your India's foreign policy, right? Paper 2 part B. Why? Because at the end of the day, foreign policy, what is its purpose? Its purpose is to cater to national interests. And what is one of the most core national interests? It is national security. And therefore, till very recently also, say December, November, October 2023 onwards, there has been a lot of debate of why there is no written national security policies, national security strategy when it comes to India, right? Recently again, there were comments by the CDS Anil Chauhan with respect to national security strategy, and KJ Singh ended up writing an editorial about the same in Indian Express. Now, what a lot of students end up doing is that they have a very resource-led approach, that they'll pick up one source and they'll look at the article there and read it, right? If they have some time, they will probably end up having one more source that they read. Now, what is important is that rather than having a resource-led approach, have a topic-led approach. You know what are the kind of topics which are in news, which you can get through any of the sources, right? What you should do is that after you cover, say, one source, just do a cursory Google of it. There will be a number of other analyses which present themselves. So that is exactly what I did. That NSS is in news. There is an editorial written on it. So let's see who else have written on it. So I was able to find an article in the Hindu also. I was able to find an analysis in India's India Defense Review, which is a very important website. Plus there was also an analysis which was available in the Wire by Shiv Shankar Menon. And this again becomes very important. This topic becomes very important because in 2023, there was an edited volume by N.N. Vora which came out, which is on India's security challenges. So again, very important that you can incorporate. Now, I will teach you how do you derive these elements to have current affairs notes which can prove very fruitful for your PSIR answers. Now, first things first, which you should always know is what is the context. See, as the geopolitical landscape is becoming more and more complex, right? You see the various tensions which have arisen. You have Russia-Ukraine crisis, you have the crisis which is ongoing between Israel and Palestine. The entire Levant is going through a period of destabilization, right? So this means that national security has become a top concern, especially when India is aspiring to become a global power. It cannot do the same without securing its national interests, its borders, its territory, its people, right? Therefore, ensuring that it has a working, elaborate and strategic security architecture in place is critical for India. Now, Shiv Shankar Menon also remarks upon this, right? He says, look at the kind of things that happen in Israel. In fact, in recent times, one of the things that CDS General Anil Chauhan has mentioned is that, listen, just because India does not have a written national security strategy does not mean that we do not have one. We have some sort of joint coordination operation. Look at us, the way in which we responded in Uri or Balakot, or the way in which India has been responding even to, say, non-traditional security crisis like, say, the COVID-19 pandemic. So we have some sort of structure in place. But say Shiv Shankar Menon, who's the former NSA, will also say that do not take these things for granted, right? So look at Israel. Israel is also one of those countries which does not have a written security strategy but was touted to be extremely powerful, have a great intelligence agency. He says, look at what happened on October 7, 2023. So we cannot take these things for granted, and we should be more proactive when it comes to formulating a comprehensive strategy in dealing with our national security. In fact, this is something that a lot of people also comment on, that listen, there have been attempts made in the past, till very recently in 2018, a defense planning committee was formulated which is chaired by our NSA Ajit Doval, right, to actually formulate the national security strategy and the national defense strategy. Now, they say what has happened with respect to that remains unknown, right? There has been no considerate development which we can talk about. And especially when we see the doing away of the 5-year plans, the 10-year plans, and the new plans which have been put into place are still not stabilized, one needs to have a national security strategy in the written form to ensure coordination of the highest manner. Now, first things that you should be noting down, the first question that should come to your mind is, Akhirkar, what is national security strategy? So, crisp notes on that. National security strategy is basically a written document or a policy which ends up outlining the country's security objectives and what are the ways in which we can achieve these objectives, right? So one has to reach from point A to point B. So first is identifying that point B is my destination, and secondly, how do I reach that destination? That is again something which is a part of national security strategy. Now, very importantly, not just traditional security concerns, but even non-traditional threats, challenges, these are some things which are a part of the national security strategy, so that there is some approach in dealing with them. Plus, very importantly, with every challenge, there is some accountability introduced by allocating responsibilities to particular agencies. That these responsibilities are the task of, say, this agency, of IB or RAW or Ministry of Defense or Ministry of Home Affairs, right? So there is a clear-cut demarcation which is done, right? Therefore, all in all, if in an answer you're supposed to define, here is a crisp, nice definition that a national security strategy guides the military as well as critical defense and security reforms, right? So the three wings of your military, of your army, navy, air force, but at the same time also critical defense and security reforms, which can have interlinkages with your civilian government as well, right? With your civilian workforce as well, right? Your bureaucracy, for example, with strategic implications, jiske through we can formulate a holistic plan that caters to securing India's national security and makes a roadmap that whatever challenges that exist, how are we to address the same. Now, when we talk of the need of India's national security strategy, do these strategy documents exist in other global powers, in other countries? The answer is yes. A number of countries have made such documents, have made such policies which cater to national security. First up is United States of America. Now here, very importantly, US has regularly updated its national security policy through various white papers, right? So say for example, in 1986, you had the Goldwater-Nichols Act, which is the legal document which forms a base for the national security policies that USA comes up with. And this it had formulated in the aftermath of the debacle that was Vietnam War. So they knew that they don't want a repeat of Vietnam War, so let's bring in some changes and transformation in the way in which we imagine our security and address the challenges associated with it, so that we are able to perform better, right? And again, it is a very comprehensive approach which includes national security challenges, military, economic responses, diplomatic responses, as well as the technological aspects of the same. Now, Joe Biden got the 2022 national security strategy, and again here the main challenges are also pointed out, because first you have to point out the hurdle to be able to address it. Two main strategic challenges have been pointed out. First, there is the post-Cold War competition between superpowers, right? Particularly here is the question of Russia and China, and then transnational challenges that have been going on. So this can be climate change, this can be the global pandemic, and other such issues like terrorism which have been going on. Next up, very importantly, is Japan. Now, we understand since the Second World War, Japan has had a very pacifist approach. But with respect to the changing global and geopolitical landscape recently, Japan has brought about changes in its own national security strategy as well, and it released the new national security strategy in 2022. Wherein what did it do? That its completely pacifist approach, it shared that, and it said, now I need to balance. I need to boost my defense capabilities to be able to balance peace in the region along with securing my national interest and security as well. And therefore, as a part of its national security strategy paper, it has focused on collaborating with like-minded countries, so countries like say India, countries like USA, plus maintaining free and open Indo-Pacific region, which is one of the mainstays, and then also contribute to network regional security architecture through say groupings like Quad, etc. Then even a superpower like China has its national security strategy in place, which has been called the Comprehensive National Security, particularly looking at the kind of hybrid warfare that China indulges in. Most recently, we have also come to know the gray zone tactics that it employs, right? Non-traditional manners in which it tries to curb, humiliate and embarrass various countries, right? So salami slicing approach that China does, or cartographic colonization, claiming certain areas as its own in a map, right? Or economic bullying that it ends up doing. All of these are a part of its comprehensive national security strategy, and again it's very centralized, just like the governance structure of China as well. Right, so we see that a number of countries have this. Similarly, UK has it, right? So UK, to ensure its security, relies a lot on its nuclear posture, plus also the global alliance, the global security defense pact in the form of NATO. Even Pakistan, for that matter, has a national security strategy in place, which was incorporated in 2022 till 2026. Right? Therefore, these ideas have been raised time and again that it's high time that India also comes up with a national security strategy. And Shiv Shankar Menon also underlines how the attempt to formulate a national security strategy has been tried in the past, but somehow it has not been able to work out. Now, in the most recent article, KJ Singh says and underlines certain needs for this national security strategy. He says, first and foremost, via this policy, what can happen is it gives you a macro approach for the entire country. And what you can also end up doing is that because there is some sort of written regulations available, you can build on this synergy, which can end up comprehensively harnessing the entire national power, right? So this can be the economic power, this can be the technological power, this can be the military power. All of it can be used in a coordinated manner to address a challenge. Then this also enables the setting of milestones for capability building, particularly when it comes to defense modernization, building of defense infrastructure, as well as Atmanirbhar Bharat mission, which is an intrinsic part of defense build-up and modernization. Then it says this also helps us ensure operational clarity and ease of decision making. So rather than relying on over-centralization, particularly political over-centralization, we can have a decentralized directive style of command, through which what can happen is that immediate decisions according to the situation prevailing, the context prevailing, that can be enabled, right? This will also help in a more coordinated approach, plus in what we call is, आगे चल के हम इसकी बात भी करेंगे, theaterization, so that across various commands there is increased jointness, there's increased coordinated approach, so that any particular challenge which comes up can be tackled effectively. Very importantly, he also says that this will end up encouraging a new generation of innovative and visionary military commanders like we had in the past, such as Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw, Lieutenant General Harbakh Singh, as well as Lieutenant General Sagat Singh. Shiv Shankar Menon further adds on to this, right? As we've said, so again, these are interrelated points. And again, you have to understand that these terms are very important. These terms, why? Because these are keywords. So even if you don't end up remembering names such as KJ Singh, NN Vora, Shiv Shankar Menon, what you can do is use these keywords which have been mentioned, from over centralization to decentralization of command, right? Then very importantly, as Shiv Shankar Menon says, that you have to encourage jointness, right? Jointness or theaterization. ये क्या keywords हैं which when included in your answer will make your answer come across as very expertise oriented. So in jointness, this means that there is an integrated approach which is followed by all the services of the military, right? Plus not just all the three services of the military, but even between the uniformed personnel plus the civilians who are also contributing, right? So there can be bureaucrats, there can be politicians, there can be other people who are playing an advisory and other role in this manner. Then very importantly, he says theaterization. Says there is a need to overhaul the country's existing defense deployment, which is a service-based command center, to actually replace it with a theatre-based command center. So till now, India only has one unified theatre command, which is the Andaman and Nicobar command. Shiv Shankar Menon suggests that in a certain geography, what you can have is a unified operational commander, right? Unified for army, military and navy. And then in a geography to tackle various security challenges which might emerge, they can perform together in an integrated manner. So both of them are related, right? So say for example, there is functional integration when it comes to say your unified nuclear command, right? So that is also a form of functional theater command which exists in India. So Andaman and Nicobar is one such area where it exists. So Shiv Shankar Menon suggests that you can have one, say, a theater command which is directed towards addressing the China security challenge. One can be directed towards addressing the Pakistan security challenge, and then there can be one which is looking at the maritime security challenges, right? So these can be unified theater commands. Then he says that there is a need to reform the Ministry of Defence also to ensure increased accountability as well as professionalism, and plus the way in which Ministry of Defence is run should ensure that national security institutions have enough autonomy, have enough accountability, and have enough resources to ensure that all the demands of the national security are catered to. Plus, they say that this will also end up ensuring better external security management. Now, in recent times, if you look at India, even though there is no existential crisis, but things on the external front have only worsened. Look at the kind of issues that India has been facing with China, right? This is very, very questionable. Now, because of this reason, you have to be able to have a continuous strategic way through which you can manage your adversaries, particularly as India is surrounded by threats in its neighborhoods, particularly with the rise of, say, hybrid warfare or grey zone tactics like we mentioned. A more elaborate national security strategy document is the need of the hour. Plus, they say look at the fact that traditional forms of managing crisis are now breaking down. Both India and China are nuclear powers, and deterrence was seen one of the ways through which conflict could be avoided. Yet there have been outbreaks of conflicts between India and China on the LAC despite they both being nuclear powers. So deterrence, or the importance of deterrence, has deteriorated in the current scenario. Last but not the least, you have to understand the way in which you are making reforms and to go through with them, right? Infrastructure is one area of reform which is required, even in terms of policies and schemes. Right now, Menon underlines, say, you got around the Agniveer scheme, which had an impact in our external relations also, particularly with Nepal. So, how you conceive of these reforms, how you relay them to your external partners, that is also of utmost importance and can be included in your national security strategy, right? So, in this manner, you can understand what do you mean by NSS. So, we understood what is NSS, what are the counter opinions to having a written NSS, and then why have various scholars, why have various experts underlined the need to have a policy like the NSS, how it will serve India's national interests, plus the number of keywords that we can be adding in this answer also, right? So, a very keyword, a very analysis rich current affairs के notes on this particular topic has been made available to you, and this is how you can build on these issues on your own as well. Now, if you think that there will be a lot of time which you will end up wasting or spending and you will not have adequate time for anything else, we have a current affairs course for 2025 and 2026 students which you can avail of. Very importantly, if you are a student of Mains 2024, then the crash course that we have, this will also include current affairs lectures from October 2023 till your Mains 2024. So anything that you've missed out on or don't understand will all be available here. Very importantly, presently the prices have been reduced further due to an ongoing discount. So you can use Mains 24 code and you can get the crash course with evaluation. And again, it is a PYQs oriented crash course. We will be covering previous 10 years PYQs in a thematic manner, understand how they can come in the present context, add current issues and questions to them, plus current affairs lectures, regular answer writing, everything will be included in this, right? So you can get this for 7,500 if you also want your answers to be checked. If you do not want your answers to be checked, this is available for rupees 6,500. Apart from this, we also have our previous year questions based test series, which will have weekly mini tests of 10 questions each. Plus, we will also have 4 full-length tests, right? 2 full-length tests based on PYQs and 2 based on new questions with model answers, video solutions, detailed evaluation, feedback. And here again, you will get PDFs of the monthly current affairs lectures, not videos, but PDFs of current affairs monthly lectures. And again, you can use the same code to avail this now at only rupees 5,000. What you can do is you can call this number 1800-890-3043 to get more information, or you can write us on sleepy.classes@gmail.com and we will address all your doubts. So don't waste any more time. Become a part of our crash courses, test series if you're preparing for mains 2024, or if you're a student of 2025, you can become a part of a foundational course where again you get this current affairs course complementary with your entire foundation course. Or if you've covered the basics, you can only become a part of the current affairs course as well. This was all from me today. Thank you and see you